You're listening to Speak Lord. I'm Ryan Rogers, and I invite you to stay tuned at the end of this episode. There are some changes happening to Speak Lord, and I want to let you know what you can expect. So I have to tell you about dream food. Dreaming is right up there with the strangest experiences we have. I have some strange dreams of my own, and I have 3 kids who love to tell me about their dreams, and it can get really strange. See, while we sleep, our minds go on adventures that don't have to make any sense, but they can feel so real. For example, recently I dreamed that the NFL quarterback Russell Wilson died in some accident, and it seemed so real to me that I actually had to Google his name to confirm that it was really a dream. But the thing is that no matter how real the dream seems, it always goes away when we wake up. God talks about this exact experience, and he uses an illustration when he's speaking to the prophet Isaiah, and this is from Isaiah 29, verse 8, and I think it's genius. God says, "As when a hungry man dreams, and behold, he is eating, and awakes with his hunger not satisfied. Or when a thirsty man dreams, and behold, he is drinking, and awakes faint, with his thirst not quenched. So shall the multitude of all the nations be that fight against Zion." So we can imagine a man who's dreaming of food, and in the real world, he's hungry. He needs food, and his mind goes into this fantasy place of feeling like it's being satisfied with that very thing he needs. And our mind can do crazy things. We can imagine a ridiculous amount of food, or that the food is all these crazy colors, or it tastes so good, but that doesn't make it real. So when he wakes up, the dream food is gone. And that man's body was not nourished. It is still hungry. What God said to Isaiah is that he wakes up with his hunger not satisfied and his thirst not quenched. This is God's illustration for a certain kind of people. It's given in a woe to Jerusalem, and the text tells us what this illustrates. It says, "So shall the multitude of all the nations be that fight against Zion." So this description of dream food is about those who fight against God, who resist the things of God. And here's the point. Any part of your life that is against God, it's dream food. There may be pleasure in the dream, but it's not real. It won't satisfy, it won't quench, and when you wake up, it'll be gone. Material wealth and accomplishments, well, they might seem satisfying. They might meet a need you have for approval, but it's dream food. The sexual sin, it might deliver an intense pleasure hit that tells you it's worth it. It's dream food. The pride might bring you that high that you crave. It's dream food. The substance might help you escape, but when you wake up, it's all dream food. The high is gone. In fact, it never really was. The escape is not there. The pleasure didn't last. All the ways we might believe that our cravings were satisfied apart from God will be proved empty. There's a strong biblical theme about the shortness of life and how the things of this earth don't last. They fade. This illustration God gives of dream food is a preview of the emptiness that we will experience when the realization hits us that the promises this world made to us were illusions. But our struggle is that dream food is so appealing. It seems so real. It seems so satisfying. And this dream can last your whole life. We will all wake up one day, but some won't wake up until Jesus comes back. And when we pursue this dream food, we are convinced that there is another source that can meet the cravings that are deep in our soul. It feels so real while the dream lasts. You've probably had this experience when you wake up from a dream and you try to tell it to somebody and it just sounds ridiculous. And the more you talk about it, the more you realize this isn't even working and you're not remembering the pieces and they're not fitting together. So you just stop trying to explain it because the more you do, the worse it gets. This is the experience we have when we wake up to the reality of God and we are trying to make sense of why we thought that other thing was so satisfying, and we can't even put the pieces together. We were so deceived in an illusion. We're not sure why that stuff ever had any meaning to us. The good news is that there is real food, and it's available to us in this life. We don't have to check out for a fading illusion. We can feed on the real stuff that does satisfy our cravings. And not only does it satisfy now, it lasts forever. The sooner we wake up, the sooner we can expose the dream food and pursue the real spiritual nourishment that God has for us. How is God speaking to you? Speak, Lord. Your servant is listening. Well, I shared with you at the beginning of this episode that there are some changes coming to Speak, Lord, and I've considered a whole bunch of options. If you've listened long enough, you already know that Speak, Lord has survived one stop and relaunch. As I've continued, I've enjoyed Speak, Lord, and I also know that we're not reaching a whole lot of people. And so there's been a temptation to quit and use my time somewhere else. But then I talked to some people who really appreciate Speak, Lord. God is speaking to them through this podcast. So I've been thinking a lot about the future of the podcast. We're almost at 150 episodes, and that's a nice number. So we're actually going to stop there for a moment. But I won't be stopping for good. The purpose of this pause is to come back and come back stronger in a slightly different way. So I've also been working on another podcast. I've had it in my mind since January 2021, and I've had phases of obsession about it and some phases where it just got put at the bottom of my to-do list. And the ideas I have for this other podcast are going to take quite a bit of work. So I'm going to be taking time away from producing a regular weekly Speak Lord podcast so that on September 1, I've made a firm launch date. On September 1, Speak Lord will return with some added elements. They're going to be called Speak Lord Stories, and it's going to feature this other idea I have for a podcast where we are looking for God to speak and to move in our community and capturing those stories and listening for God's voice to us in those stories. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time, and I know that God is leading in this direction. So until then, we're going to make it to episode 150, and then I'm going to do some rerun episodes of the favorite Speak Lord episodes, the ones that got the most listens of those first 150 episodes. And then I'll also be posting some updates about where we're at on Speak Lord coming in September. I hope that you keep listening so that you can know what's coming and that you can join us for this next phase of Speak Lord.